A shark has some advice for your resume. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. You can find us at focusgroupradio.com. And when you're there, please check out TFG Unbuttoned. That is our Tuesday podcast. And of course, everything's available at focusgroupradio.com, all about us, the show, and all our media, including this broadcast, which comes to you live, sort of live in video and audio format. So before we kick off, like Tim and I had an unbuttoned. So if you listened earlier in the week, then you know that I did not get to see all of the Super Bowl ads. And in our previous conversation, we were talking about how one ad, Coinbase, which Tim actually, it was the simple. We're both stunned at how simple this ad was. It's a little QR code that goes around the screen like Pong used to do, and it crashed their servers, and it was one of the most popular spots, proving that you can make something for $5.
Well, how cheap was that? Yeah, how cheap was that thing to do? It had to be less than $50,000.
Well, I could have done it in my computer for in an hour. You just moves it around, right? It's
Yeah, I was shocked because I thought something happened to the TV when I saw it, so I had no idea that it was an actual ad. So that was the brilliance of it, the simplicity. And that's what you and I said overall about the commercials. The ones that are the most simple, that don't have all the
bells and whistles,
ramifications, right, of celebrity and special effects and all the other stuff, end up just being a mess, I think. Nissan's a good example of that. That commercial was just, to me, it's just a mess. Whereas,
but it was your favorite beforehand, right?
No, I liked Kia. I liked
Kia,
the Kia
and that
ad
was
with
the robot dog. But you saw it in its incarnation before its 30-second spot, right?
Yeah, so when they're 90-second spots, you can build a story and create empathy and create emotion. But when they cut them down to 30 seconds or 60 seconds, they end up being, they lose something. I think a lot of them lost something. As you and I said on our podcast, that it's hard to do a 30-second ad well.
Yeah, it's very hard to do it well. And Tim actually referenced, when we were offline, Tim referenced one of our old sponsors, Volkswagen, who's still known. I think they still get credit for that Star Wars spot where the kid tries to use the Force and then the dad beep beep turns on the lights, and it was for the Jetta, which I don't even remember if people. I don't even know if people.
So it wasn't even for the Jetta.
Passat.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they did a horrible job for you, as it did with everyone else, because the car went out of production. They had more. It was the biggest or the most watched Super Bowl ad ever. They said
ever
between social, but the car did horribly, and they've stopped making it.
I do remember that now. Yeah, but then what they did after that huge success, simple ad. Car in a driveway, kid in a mask with a cape on, dad in the. So you can imagine that was not insanely costly to produce. The next year, VW went and they recreated the Mos Eisley Cantina set from Star Wars and did a whole new Star Wars thing, which cost a bundle. No one. Do you remember that second year Star Wars ad? Because I really don't. Yeah.
No, but you had to be. I think that was too insider. The joy,
Totally.
the thing about the little kid is, while they used Star Wars as the vehicle, everybody understood what was going on, kind of the magic thing with little kids and wonder and excitement. And so it worked so brilliantly there. But when you get into you, of course, an uber fan of Star Wars, probably much appreciated it. But do you remember much about it? There was a bar scene, right?
Yeah. Bar.
And then they did the dogs, right? Didn't they do dogs too with Star Wars something?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was money down the drain. Then Dieselgate happened. And our wheels fell off, and now everybody's gone electric.
God, can I tell you something? That's a memory, Tim. Tim and I were on our way back from a wonderful trip to Maine. We had toured the LL Bean facility up there, the Boats and Totes facility, because Tim knew the head of marketing at the time. And we went to P-Town. We were test driving something called CarPlay in a really souped-up Jetta. We're in P-Town, a couple people recognized us by our voices because we have faces for the face for radio. They used to say.
Well, they just don't see us on Sirius XM.
We're pulling out of P-Town, and Tim is passenger, and he was reading the headlines of the day on his iPad, and he said, "Uh-oh, front page, Dieselgate," and that began a whole big thing, right? That's what you can.
And you had
billions of dollars.
you had a diesel Jetta wagon, right?
Jetta Sport, this TDI.
Yeah,
Sport
turbo
wagon.
diesel.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I loved it because you used to get 45, 48 miles to the gallon. So. Who knew that I was causing some
You're a
environmental
polluter, John. You're a polluter.
There you go. I'm a polluter.
You're part of the problem.
And a long delayed trip, well, a couple weeks delayed. A couple weeks ago, Bob and I were going to go visit Tim down at Rehoboth. And wouldn't you know that they get like the storm of the century down there. I think he had 14 inches of snow. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And Tim did something very smart because Tim and I grew up and a lot of us grew up in a world where we didn't know when the weather was going to do this. And you'd had a snow day and people would drive with, so he's like, you can drive down, it's going to be fine. So the morning of, I get a note from Tim and he says, they're now projecting 14 inches. So, but that was it. So I said, I had called him up and I said, "What do you think?" He goes, "Well, you could drive here. And the only problem is going to be getting out."
Right. Or you'll be fine. You'll come here and sit in a snowstorm in the house and be stuck in the house.
So Tim gave us some. So I said the options to Bob, and Bob kind of thinks about it. He goes, "Well, maybe we should just make it for another weekend." So that's the weekend that's coming up now. And also there was another little ripple to that whole story, which was the nail in the tire thing, which freaked me out, but I got fixed at a place down the road.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Or the nail in the tire. I'm paranoid when a light comes on the dashboard. I have been trained like a Pavlovian dog to immediately react. Like what's gonna happen? Oftentimes, like we have this fluid light that pops on now and then. Something about the radiator. It turns out that when if the car's parked outside in sub-zero temperatures for a while, when you turn it on, it will do that. After it runs for a while, turn the car off, turn it back on, the light goes away. Oh, there you go.
Oh my God, are you still a little old lady about gas? That one trip with you, oh my God, I've never seen you so panicked. And we had a quarter of a tank of gas, and you were panicked.
Light
I don't know what
comes
to
on.
do. Bob, get on there. Try to find something. Try to find a place we can get off. Blah, blah, blah. John, every exit has a gas station. We will be fine. My grandmother, you remind me of my grandmother. She would, as soon as that car hit a quarter of a tank left, she'd pull into the Citgo. She loved the Citgo stations. Got to fill up.
Is this your grandmother in Canada?
No, in Connecticut. Francis.
Okay.
She always pulled into the Citgo, and she always gave the guy a quarter for doing the windows. And
You remember this?
yeah, here, get yourself a cup of coffee. Yeah. So that's when the service people would come out and do your windows. I mean, 60s, But and then I don't know why do you still go crazy when the car gets down like that, or it doesn't get down there?
The other day we were driving. Yeah.
Even your brother-in-law was laughing. Your brother-in-law was screaming it out. He thought that was quite funny.
So we were driving up the Taconic a few weekends ago, and the light came on.
Oh.
I immediately hit, the low fuel light. So I immediately hit
40 miles left.
So I hit this thing on the IP that gives you car status, right? And it tells you how many miles you've gone, your average mile per gallon. And then in the bottom right corner, it says how many estimated miles you have in the car. And I realized that we could have easily made it to the house. And in fact, made it to the house, driven to the gas station next day. So I thought, I'm going to do that. So we keep driving. And this time, guess who freaks out? Bob's like, he goes, that light's on. That light's on. I said, yeah, but the car says down here that we have 40 miles and we're only 20 from the house. We ended up getting it on the way to the house, so I pulled into us. But I didn't panic this time around. But Bob panicked, so there you go.
Really? Both of you?
Yeah. And, I keep,
it's so funny because you're so adventurous about other things. Like you'll go off, swing, somebody will alert you off some building in Vegas and some swing that you don't even know has been checked, but you're afraid that you might run out of gas or that the electric car we're driving might lose charge. But you'll throw yourself off, 15-story building, but that's okay.
In a seat. I like the way you just said that. You'll throw yourself in a seat. No one checked.
No.
But the gas light comes on.
Yeah. All
right.
panic ensues.
We're not going to make it. All right. So with that, let's go to Caught Your Eye.
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, speaking of cars, I don't know if you saw this. It's this popped up in one of my auto feeds, but there's so the company is Mazda, Mazda car company, and apparently they're having issues in the Seattle area where if you have one of the cars that's assembled 2016 or older, there's a strange phenomenon where they're all getting stuck on the NPR channel, all the radios.
Wait, when you sent this to me, I just thought, how is this even possible? But let's continue.
Yeah, I'll have to read it just so I don't mess it up. But it says, for whatever reason, several Mazda CX-5 crossovers and other products from the brand that were assembled in 2016 are experiencing a strange phenomenon in Seattle. All users operating the Puget Sound area who at some point may have set their radio to the 94.9 frequency, KUOW's NPR channel, are unable to change it. And the NPR station says they became aware of this through social media with a number of Mazda owners complaining. The first case came from a guy named Scott Smith in Seattle. He said he's been very critical of the infotainment center in the car when he got it. He said it was glitchy. But he said he just went to the grocery store. When he returned, he turned the car on and found that his instrument panel was just scrolling through different screens and different options. But he was unable to put a stop to it, and he even tried rebooting it. Like you said, turn it on, start it again. He then noticed that it stopped in NPR. He could hear it through the speakers. So he says, I listened to NPR, so that wasn't a problem, but I was unable to use the navigation, which is pretty crappy anyway in a lot of these cars. He was unable to use the navigation or the Bluetooth feature. And he said the only thing he was able to adjust was the volume. So he was stuck on NPR. So they called the Mazda dealership, and the service manager at one of the Mazda dealerships says that, yeah, we've heard about this. People have been calling in and complaining. We don't know what to do, but the frequency has locked in and taken over people's cars for the last few weeks. So the radio station doesn't know what happened either. They surmised that there was a change from 5G with the 5G rollout to 3G, and these are HD radios. These are high definition radios in these cars. But somebody said that considering that the radios only support 3G, that this recent 5G rollout would have nothing to do with it because it wouldn't have anything to do with mobile networks. So they think that's unlikely. So the station's been in contact with Xperi, which is the company that owns the technology behind these HD radios. And they've been sending them all kinds of data and transmissions to try to figure it out. They still can't figure out what's going on. And they reached out to Mazda USA, no comment. The service manager said they might try to do new radios as replacements or some parts, but that could be weeks away. So,
don't you think this is really weird, though, right?
Well, they said for whatever's causing this, this may be one of Mazda's and one of automotive's strangest recalls ever. So, yeah, they can't figure out why these radios have stopped and got stuck on NPR, and you can't move them.
Well, I guess a lot of people are going to get to know All Things Considered and 1A and all the programming that you and I drop in on now and then. And could you imagine being a huge NPR hater?
Yeah.
And having your car stuck on this? I mean, I don't want to hear this. Get this off, blah, blah, blah. This.
Yeah, they're probably okay with Mazda, but if you had yourself an old Lincoln, right?
Then you're in trouble, yeah. But I like the way they just said it's the strangest recall they're ever going to have, and I have to agree with you there. Yeah. What caught my eye was a little different. There was a gentleman passed away last week, a huge influence on me. His name is Douglas Trumbull. He died at the age of, let me just double check here, 79. And he was a visual effects pioneer and wizard. And I say he was a big influence on me because when I was growing up and all the formative movies, Planet of the Apes, 2001, Star Trek, the motion picture, Blade Runner, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they all had a look and a feel to them, and a lot of the reason was because of Douglas Trumbull, and he literally created the way we do special effects, at least back then with film, photographing miniatures, all these elaborate lighting effects, and his stuff always looked real, at least to me, because boy, did I want to be in space or taken away by the aliens. But
did you really?
Well, it's wouldn't you, hey, if a ship landed and they said come on board and you're going to be away forever, I'd have a hard time not getting on board. But so this is some of
you'd get on a sub if ET landed with a little ship up in Hudson, You're
Yeah.
going to walk on that little. Goodbye, Bob. See?
Well, I'd ask if he could come. You know what I mean? So can Bob come? No, only you. That would be a hard one.
Wow.
So I'll read a little bit here. If you've watched a classic landmark sci-fi movie and you were blown away by the quality and realism of its effects, then there's a good chance Douglas Trumbull's name is in the credits. The VFX, visual effects pioneer, who passed away on February 8th, has worked on key films in the sci-fi canon, meaning these are all the ones you got to see. Even a short version of his resume would have to include 2001: A Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Star Trek the Motion Picture, Blade Runner, and a classic called Silent Running. To have worked on one of those in your lifetime would have been a big deal, but to have contributed to all of them speaks to how much work he gave to the industry. Interestingly, he was the son of an artist and engineer who worked, and the guy's name was Donald Trumbull, and he worked as a visual effects expert for The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow.
And Douglas, the son, Douglas Trumbull, who just passed away, a talented painter and artist in his own right, got a job at Graphic Films and worked on a short film about space travel for the 1964 World's Fair. That began his career. It catapulted into meeting Stanley Kubrick, who later directed 2001: A Space Odyssey, and he put Douglas Trumbull on the map as a visual effects problem solver. Sadly, he did pass on February 8th, as I mentioned before. His daughter posted, and this is the sad part to me, she said her father passed away after a 2-year battle with cancer, a brain tumor, and a stroke. I mean, yeah, I know. that's at 79. So I was, happy to have known his work or loved his work in the movies that I adore. And I used to read interviews about him all the time. Tim, do you happen to remember from your Walden Book days when you used to have the magazine rack? Do you remember a magazine called Starlog by any chance?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Vaguely.
Was that?
It
was that his,
it was a fan magazine for sci. It was basically a PR shill for studios. But
Right.
Douglas Trumbull and another guy named John Dykstra were always profiled, and they would always show them with the models or the matte paintings or something. And that's what got me to go. I thought I was going to be a special effects technician when I went to school. I thought I want to be like Douglas Trumbull, and I ended up as a art director. It's the little things that push you into those unique things, I suppose, right?
Do you think did he have his own business or did he work for a
Yeah, he
studio?
did.
He had his own
He
business.
he ultimately did have a studio. He also did experimentation with showing films at 120 frames per second, which films are shown at 24. But at the higher frame rate, there's an eerie sort of realism to them that really takes you in differently than television or video frame rate does.
Huh.
But yeah, he was quite prolific, quite an inventor.
Do you think they made money? Did they make a lot of money?
That is a really good question. That's an excellent question you ask, because everything I've ever read about these visual effects houses is that they're always on the other end of the spectrum. They're losing
Right.
money. They think it's going to cost this much, then it costs a lot more, but they're locked into a studio contract. It's a good question.
Because they can make or break a film. And
Uh-huh.
the other thing about somebody like him is here he's, if he was wandering around L.A., he'd be invisible to 99.9% of the people probably.
It's true. It's very true.
And
Yeah.
here he's done probably some of the most famous work that everybody would
Recognizable.
recognize.
Yeah.
And I often wonder if there's that sort of notoriety of somebody who, he's very much involved in the business in LA, right? In entertainment business, but is able to kind of go and come as he wants. And but I wondered
Not
whether
like an
they
actor,
had
right?
no, right? Cher can't run down to the CVS and get a lip
For a
balm,
pack of gum.
right? But he could do whatever he wants. But I often wondered whether these folks made comparable. If he worked on a huge blockbuster that made $1 billion, are they getting some sort of
No, these
bonus?
individuals, these workers, the people that the studios hired or contracted with, they had a fixed figure. They didn't get back end points. They
Yeah.
didn't do things like he. So yeah, that's a good question. It's a really good question. I think they do it for the passion of it, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, if you can do a career in something you love,
Well, then you then hop on board, right?
yeah, that sounds great.
All right. As many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we would love you to go to their site by going to ours, focusgroupradio.com, and clicking on the Deep Discount logo and start your shopping frenzy. And, award season's around the corner, and because of theaters not being open because of the event, etc., a lot of our viewing has changed. And so, keep an eye on Deep Discount for some of the Oscar nominees and movies that you might not have gotten to see. It's a perfect time to order and get something that you haven't seen in the theaters or has been streaming. For example, there's a movie that I saw called Drive My Car, which was nominated for Best Director, Best Picture, I believe. Not available anywhere. It's in the theater right now, but you better believe Deep Discount will have it at any time now. So we have a sale going on, and it's the award-winning films and nominees sale. And I'll let Tim take it away with what he picked because, by the way, Tim, I love your pick. You always do good picks.
Well, I am not a huge movie buff as you are. I love movies, but you are. I would consider you an expert. So I found this when I was scrolling through because, as John always says, you can get lost on the Deep Discount site. There's so many ways to go. But I found this collection. It's the Essential Collection, 10 Best Pictures from Academy Award-winning pictures. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if you owned every single Academy Award-winning picture from, since the beginning?
Quite
So
a
I looked to
library,
see,
huh? Yeah.
yeah. So I looked to see what was on here. So these are what they're calling the Essential Collection. I don't know how they picked them, but so it's the 10 best pictures. So this set here that they have, this disc, 14 disc set, came out originally. They say 1927 because the first film they picked is called Wings, which was the very
Oh,
first.
yeah, Wings is famous. Yeah.
It's a silent movie, but won Best Picture the first year that they did the awards. But this compilation came out last March in 2021. But what I laughed about it, so it has on it, if you buy this collection of 10 pictures, it's got Wings, it has My Fair Lady from 64, The Godfather from 72, Terms of Endearment, 1983, Forrest Gump, 94. What I think is one of the worst movies ever made, The English Patient, 1996.
I just think of the Seinfeld episode where no one, Elaine hates it. Like everybody's, what's the
Right.
big deal with The English Patient?
She's in that rock, just die already. Then the Titanic, which, I still always laugh every time you ask whether they're seating the, what did you say?
Are they seating the boats according to class? Yeah.
The lifeboats. Then another horrible movie, which you love, and I probably should watch again and give it since it won 5 Academy Awards, American Beauty, which came out in 1999. I slept through the whole thing. John walked
Well,
away
you
from
had
me.
just
I was
gone off
snoring
a
in the
flight
theater.
from Tokyo, so you're kind of excused from that, right?
I probably should watch it again. I mean, I slept through it. And then Gladiator from 2000, No Country
Love
for Old
Gladiator,
Men,
yeah.
and No Country for Old Men 2007. So these are all multi winners in the Academy Awards. So pick that up at deep discount. The 10 best
Price is
pictures,
not
the
bad
Essential
either.
Collection. No, for all those movies, 10 movies for under $10 a movie.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, I picked a movie that I loved, and it's a movie that I rarely see streaming, and I rarely see it broadcast, but it's fantastic. It was based on a theatrical play first. It's called The Madness of King George, and
Oh,
it
I remember
stars. Do you remember this? It's
Yep.
Rupert Graves, Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren's played a lot of royalty. She's played a lot of queens, actually. She's played Queen Elizabeth a number of times. She's played Queen Elizabeth I. She's played the current Queen Elizabeth. She played the Queen here. So in the late 1780s, George III of England, who's played by Nigel Hawthorne, who did the theatrical play and the movie, he's fantastic, began to suffer bouts of dementia, the source of which remains debated to this day. As the behavior of the monarch grew increasingly erratic, his scheming son, a young Rupert Everett, started the political groundwork for early ascension to the throne, and a controversial therapist, Ian Holm, another great actor, labored to steal the regent back to rationality. And in fact, George III's son started what was known as the Regency period, and George III is the king who basically lost the American colonies because that was when the Revolutionary War happened. There's a lot of great characters that pop in. William Pitt, for example, is one of his prime ministers, and that's a famous name in British history. So if you have a chance, you might want to pick up The Madness of King George. It's a wonderful movie, beautifully done, and I never mind seeing it, but I just haven't seen it lately, and that's why I think it would be fun to pick up. And the release this week is a movie that Tim mentioned also on our earlier podcast on Tuesday, the TFG Unbuttoned. It's called Julia. And Julia, and the reason Tim loves it is because he's a documentary. See, Tim, you do love movies. You just love like really good documentaries.
Well, it's like only
So
read nonfiction mostly, so it's the same sort of thing, I guess.
it's very much the same sort of thing. So this is from a shared career in the Foreign Service with her husband. Her delight with French cuisine brought her to culinary school in Paris, and her groundbreaking cookbook paired with her broadcast skill to place her amongst the first and most enduring of American celebrity chefs. The life and legacy of Julia Child is affectionately celebrated in this effort from the directors of RBG, flavored with appreciation from friends and admirers, including Ian Garten, Marcus Samuelson, and a whole host of and Ruth Reichel. So this is going to be a good documentary, and I think we both recommend it.
Yeah. I always love some of her quotes too. If you don't have cream, use butter. If you don't have cream, use butter.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Larry King asked her what was it? Larry King asked her what the success for longevity was in her life. And she said, gin, meat, and butter.
It's everything that you're not supposed to have, right?
Yeah, gin, meat. Why have you lived so long, Julia? How you lived so long? Gin, meat, and butter. So anyway, head over to our website, focusgroupradio.com. Click on the deep discount logo. Start shopping away. We appreciate it because they support us and bring us to you each week. So start shopping away there after you click on their logo. I recommended this week the 10 best pictures, the Essential Collection. John recommended The Madness of King George, and the new release is Julia. And there's an award-winning nominee sale going on right now, amongst other sales there too. So as you move around the deep discount site, you'll find all kinds of great offers and ideas for gifts, and or to just add to your collection. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a shop talk where John had teased earlier about one of the sharks from Shark Tank, one of my favorite shows, has some advice about hiring, and so we'll discuss that as well as our business birthday. So stay tuned.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is basically all you need to know. You'll find out about us and our show, the Focus Group, and TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast. Tim, I'm very excited that after this weekend, you will have your brand new laptop up and running.
Yeah, I know. You're going to come down and visit, and you're going to see all your fans. You've got Kate and Bunky are going to see you, and Patrick and Howard and Mark and Carl.
And
it's
my
like the prince has come
excitement
to
part
town.
is, you notice I'm in a different part of, I'm not where I normally am when I do.
I've noticed this. I like the background with the clock.
Mm-hmm.
What's that
I could
about?
be-
You decide to move out of
Well,
your office?
The new laptop that you're going to have, and then I have one as well, has what we call a 1080p camera built in, which means it's a great quality webcam, which means you can now move with your laptop camera can be your camera, and you can sit anywhere you want in your house and do the broadcast.
Oh,
from
so
your
I'm not going to be
laptop.
strapped to the desk. Oh, okay.
Technically,
Well, that
no,
would be
and
good. That would be good. Maybe we could be outside.
Yeah, you could be. And well, here that would be, for me, that was a whole other thing. But you could certainly be outside on your beautiful deck as the weather warms up. And you could have Spike pop in now and then. So so I'm excited. And
Spike.
later in the week, I'm going to give you a little list of things to do, simple things to start prepping your thing on maybe Friday night or Saturday morning so that we have time to set it up properly. But I think you'll be very happy with it. I know you're going to be happy with it.
I'm excited. Yeah.
And on that
Get
note,
that done.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So I had checked, John. I don't think we've done this birthday in the last 14 years, which I was surprised about. But since he's a pretty famous person, Richard McDonald, born February 16th, 1909, he and his brother Maurice were the founders of McDonald's.
I
They
do
were the
not
McDonald's
remember
brothers,
him.
the
And when
restaurant.
you sent over this information, I drew a blank and I was shocked. I was like, how do we not know this or do this before?
Well, we've probably done Ray Kroc, who is
Yep, we
often
have.
the person everybody associates with McDonald's, but it was actually founded by Richard and Maurice McDonald. They're originally from New Hampshire, They moved out with their family when they were younger. Their families moved out to California, and he and his brother opened up the original McDonald's restaurant in 1940 in San Bernardino, California. And they created this system they called the Speedy Service System, which was a way to produce meals, and ended up becoming the method that would become standard for fast food restaurants that they still use today. The iconic golden arches, which are included in the McDonald's restaurant design, also were done, created by and at the suggestion of Richard McDonald, whose birthday it is today. They didn't want to expand the chain too quickly or make it that large. They only had one desire when they started doing the McDonald's restaurants. That was to earn $1 million by the time they were 50. So that was the original.
That's a great goal and almost laughable considering how much they did end up making, right?
Well, you'll be surprised. So in 1948, they fully redesigned and rebuilt the restaurant that they had in San Bernardino, and they decided to reduce the menu and just focus on 9 items. So in addition to the famous 15-cent McDonald hamburger at the time, they had a cheeseburger. So they had a hamburger, cheeseburgers, some soft drinks, milk, coffee, potato chips, and a slice of pie. So the restaurant was doing really well. So in 1953, they decided to franchise, and they sold one franchise to McDonald's franchise to a guy named Neil Fox in Phoenix, Arizona, but realized that they didn't have time to do it all themselves because they were also cooking and doing all the work at the restaurant. So they hired this guy named Ray Kroc, who was their franchise agent, and he started selling franchises in 1954. He took 1.9% of the gross sales, and the McDonald's got 0.5% of that. So after they hired him in 54, as I said, they still continued to run the company, but Kroc in 1961 said, "Let me buy this from you." Because the brothers they made their million, whatever. So he bought the chain for $2.7 million. 1961, Ray Kroc.
Wow.
So in 1984, Richard McDonald, who actually was the very first cook at McDonald's, he was served the 50 billionth McDonald's hamburger at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in New York City. They came and they did a big deal, I guess, in 1984. We were in college. We didn't see it. And he died. Richard ended up dying of heart failure at a nursing home, kind of sad, in Manchester, New Hampshire, July 14th, 1998. He was 89 years old, and he's buried at a cemetery in Manchester there. The very first McDonald's restaurant still in existence, according to California's Route 66 Association, is owned by Albert Okura, and they made it into a museum. McDonald's, as you know, is the largest restaurant chain by revenue. You're going to say something?
Yeah, is that the picture you provided with the golden arches? If you're watching on
so.
if you're watching on YouTube, Tim sent me a photo to accompany this, and it has and I remember, you probably remember these too, Tim. What was the closest McDonald's to you? Ours was Waterbury.
Ours was we were at the other end.
Danbury,
ours was
maybe?
Danbury, exit 8.
Did it look like this? Because ours looked like that in Waterbury.
No, it didn't.
Oh.
It was it was in one of those newer malls.
Modern. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
modern.
great.
So I used to like Wetsons. Do you remember Wetsons?
No.
God, they had the saltiest fries. That's a sidebar. But as a little kid, it was a huge treat to go to McDonald's. I got to tell you something. I've been craving McDonald's, and I don't know why. So it was funny. This birthday came up, and a couple of times last week, I thought, I'm going to run to McDonald's. But you always regret it after you do. But
What'd you get?
So I didn't.
Oh.
I wanted to. I ended up going to a food truck here in the area that does a smash burger food truck, and it was quite good. I did that instead for my burger craving. But I'll tell you what, I for whatever reason, I had a thing for McDonald's. I used to love a McDonald's shake, make you burp.
Sure.
No milk in it. I mean, there's nothing in it, right? I mean, it's no ice
You
cream.
used to do, your order was typically 2 cheeseburgers, 1 large fry, and a milkshake, right?
Yeah, or small fry.
Small
and then
fry.
I'd get an orange drink.
And I used to always do 2 regular hamburgers, large fry, and a small drink.
You didn't like the cheeseburger?
I wasn't a cheeseburger fan, but I tell you this, Tim and I used to go to this McDonald's near our high school in Southbury, and one of our friends, one of the students, was at the cash register. So one day we go up, and this happened often. We ordered all this food. She was like, a quarter, or $1.25.
She threw like a pound of fries in there. Her father owned the restaurant, remember?
That's what it was. Her dad ran and stuff. Okay.
They had a big house on the Purchase. so, but so how many people do you think go through McDonald's daily? 119 countries. They serve. How many people do you think they serve a day? If you were going to guess. There's no wrong answer because I would have never come.
Would I be wrong if I said, I'm just going to make it up and say 1.2 billion a day?
That's a lot. 69 million.
Okay, that's a lot though.
Yeah. Revenue in 2020 was around 28 billion. They have 38,695 outlets as of now. And McDonald's Corporation makes money off the rent and royalties, fees paid, and so forth. They said that a country, since it's in 119 countries, that it's also one of the second largest private employer behind Walmart, employs 1.7 million people. Awful lot of kids got their start there, high school. I mean, it was a great job to have. They are the 9th highest global brand valuation in terms of dollars. So I think Apple, Amazon were up there, probably 1 and 2. But they said the presence of a McDonald's in a country has become symbolic of globalization, which has also been termed Westernization, Americanism, and McDonald's sensation or something. McDonald's cessation. I'm not saying it right. Anyway, they also said they think it's contributed to obesity around the world. Fast food, cheap food.
You think?
Cheap fast food. Now, when you and I were in Spain, so they said Western countries like America, Great Britain, they've really seen it. They're starting to see it in places like Japan, which never had an issue. But when you and I were in Spain, remember how you and I marveled about how fit everybody was? But when you went to their stores, you knew why. They didn't have all the crap and processed foods that we have, even in the cities. Anyway, happy birthday, Richard.
It's a good
McDonald,
one.
February 16th, 1909. Last time I was at McDonald's with you, we were in Florida.
Yeah, Andrew was.
We
with
did
us
a
probably.
late night stop with Andrew. But have you ever been since? Do you have a
No.
craving? Do you ever have a craving for something bad?
Only the fries. I'd happily, if somebody bought me a small fry, I'd happily eat them because the fries are one of the best things. You know, don't they even grow their own potatoes?
Yeah.
They
They
even
did.
source
Yeah,
their
and
own stuff.
Special potato. Yeah. Yeah, we
Excellent
did a story
business
on that
birthday.
guy. I forget where he was from. Yeah, there's a
Yes, you
potato guy
did.
that
It was
just-
several years ago. It was the guy that ended up supplying all the potatoes to McDonald's. Yeah. Another thing, yeah. So, hey, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we have a bit of an article here, and it's about Kevin O'Leary. And Tim loves him. He loves the show Shark Tank, and I like Kevin too. I was going to call Bupkis on this one, if that's the right phrase, because he's talking about how when he looks to interview people or hire people, he likes to look for yin and yang. So let's say that you're exceptionally good at systems integration and you collect stamps, or you do something else and you're a triathlete on the weekend, and that has to be on your resume, and he looks for that specifically. The reason I called foul on this is I think many people would tell you who have been searching for a job, depending on their age or what their skill level is or what industry they're in, that most hiring managers don't give a hoot about what your hobbies are. So Kevin O'Leary clearly is different, though, because as someone who has built some very successful businesses, he knows what it means to have a well-rounded mentality at the helm of the ship. But I just don't think that carries through to normal everyday hiring practices. I don't know. What did you think?
I agree with you. So he's not one of my favorite sharks. I like the two women, of course. Now their names will escape
Barbara
me, but
Corcoran?
Barbara Corcoran and the woman from QVC, the blonde.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about,
QVC.
but I'm
Of course,
spacing on her name. Yeah.
Forgetting her name. And I like Mark Cuban
Yep.
as well, and the guy from Fubu. But I don't. Sometimes O'Leary can be nasty sometimes, which I find it's
There's an
cringy,
edge.
but I guess yeah. And he also always wants to get his money back. He'll make an investment, but he always wants to do a royalty thing.
Yeah.
What I understood about this, I've done the same thing. I've hired people, in the dark ages. I would look at the resume. You remember that I hired somebody who majored in birdhouse architecture.
Uh-huh.
Now, nothing to do with the auto industry, but I thought there was something very interesting about her background, and ended up being a great hire and a great addition to the team. I understand what he's saying, but as you call out here, and as you mentioned, what happens now if you talk to anybody that's been out in the job market? It takes forever to even get a real person to acknowledge you, because these resumes go through these apps or these scanners to pull out
Yep.
keywords. They go through artificial intelligence to pull out exactly what the job description is. And if your resume does not have the exact words and exact job description of what they're looking for, a person will never see that, oh, you might have an interest in
Gardening.
gardening or antiquing, or that you perform in local theater, or you're a member of a band or whatever. They won't see any of that because these, I don't
The
know what you
AI
would call
system
them.
is screening for specific
Right.
things. Yeah.
Screening for, I want, these 6 things, and if these 6 things aren't the resume. So this is old school, and maybe he does, I don't know. Maybe they do have somebody that actually looks at all the resumes, but I know people that are recruiters, and they say when they go on these, if they post a job on LinkedIn or something, within 5 minutes they'll have 10,000 resumes,
Isn't that something? Yeah.
and you can't possibly go through them. And because it's so easy. So back in the day, you had to get a typewriter out and tap, 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 think about what you were going to write and send it. Now you can hit apply, click, right? So a lot of good people, I think, get looked over. That's my
Oh,
opinion.
yeah. So to wrap up what Kevin O'Leary said, though, he believes that hiring managers should look beyond the cut and dry job qualifications when assessing their candidates and ask them about their other interests. Having time-consuming hobbies outside of work can be a sign that a candidate is a diligent worker, he says. When I see people that are balanced that way, it doesn't mean that they're not working very hard. They are. They're working like crazy because they're trying to do all these things at the same time, which he likes. But as Tim said, in today's world with these AI searches, good luck getting in front of the person who sees how balanced you are in your hobbies. So that was my first thing.
Yeah. I had a person, John, who went through an interview just recently for a well-known company and didn't speak to anybody. It was like a web interview. She had to log on, and then
Answer
she had to go
questions.
through answer questions through a website with like a little PowerPoint. Never talked to anybody. She had to read it and then answer it, read it. Never. She was furious that she couldn't talk to somebody.
Yeah, I would be too, because I just said this to someone the other day. You put me in some, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but give me 15 minutes in front of somebody, let them assess if I'm a candidate worthy of, or even in business. And you and I know this from
Right.
pitching our company. The minute we're in front of somebody, we can make a personable impression. We will be seen as the competent professionals that they want to hire, but you have to get in front of somebody. So this next one is a quickie, and Tim had picked this for TFG and Button, but I loved it because once again it shows the hypocrisy of certain things. And here it is. It's a nun is sentenced after embezzling for her gambling habits. So let's unpack this for a second here.
I
It's
was
a
wondering if
business-
this was the school your sister worked at, but it wasn't.
Yeah, really. It's a business story because it involves, someone taking money or absconding funds from a legitimate business and using them for own nefarious purposes, getting caught, and we call it embezzling. The fact that it was a Catholic elementary school and it was a nun, and then she took the money because she wanted to, not have her gambling debts racked up or get caught or something. It's all just it's again, the hypocrisy of all of that is just beyond me. This if this were happening in a normal business, I wouldn't even be bringing this up. But it's a Catholic school, right? And the nuns
Well,
caught
it's-
embezzling.
And this says, she had taken a vow of poverty.
Yeah.
Let me get to yellow 11, rolling the dice, the craps table. It said she used the money intended for the school to pay for her large gambling expenses. And then I love at the very end, this is everybody that gets in trouble, right? She's very sorry for what she's done. She's very remorseful, very ashamed, very embarrassed, accepts full responsibility. And but she's sentenced to only 12 months. I thought, well, that's a pretty good gig. She got almost $1 million. She's going to sit in jail, get 3 hots and a cot. But but
3 hots and a cot. I like that.
But then they're going to ask her to pay back the $835,339. Where's she getting that from?
On a nun's salary, right? On a nun's salary.
My
Where
guess
you-
is that money's been blown. She kept thinking, oh, if I could just hit, I'll be able to pay it back. She's 80. I love these stories.
Well, and the reason is because all the facts just don't add up, right? It's you're a nun, you took a vow of poverty, you're caught embezzling almost $1 million for a gambling habit. So, what's wrong with this picture?
The other thing I don't quite understand, though, usually these schools, right, you're going to have a board of trustees, and you're going, it's a private school, right, or the archdiocese, or whoever is looking over this, or the CFO of the church. Somebody. It's not like she took $8,000, right? 800, almost $1 million. When we know that particularly small Catholic schools are struggling, so missing that kind of money, I'm just shocked that nobody picked it up sooner. They said she was stealing over 10 years.
10
It's $80,000 a year.
And where's
right?
the oversight? As Tim just said,
Yeah.
like, wouldn't somebody pick this up in some kind of P&L or balance sheet or something, right?
You'd think so,
Well,
but-
the one thing she did good at, which I'm sure involves lying, which is something else you're not supposed to do if you're a nun. She covered her tracks pretty well, right? Yeah. She fibbed. Yeah. Meanwhile, she's rapping someone on the knuckles for doing the same thing in a classroom. Then she goes off and writes herself a $10,000 check to cover her Powerball losses. If you want to send your kids there, by all means do so. Yeah.
Put it on red. Put it on red. See, she's got a
roulette
cigarette
wheel.
hanging out of her mouth. She's drinking a whiskey sour out of a plastic cup at the
It's
Indian
3 black,
Indian
and all the
casino.
chips get scooped off, and she just walks away in her habit. She probably went to the casino with her flying nun habit, right? So no, Tim, thank you for finding this one, because you do have an eye for the story that always.
Well, there's one of these a
us.
week. There's the priest who took the money to pay for little boys at the on Grindr or something. I mean, there's one every week.
There's one of these a week.
And by the way, happy birthday to Kim Jong-il. It's his birthday today. The one who died.
the
smiling
divine
allowed
one.
in North Korea. Right, no smiling allowed today on the birthday of the death either. Can't smile. If you're caught smiling, you're going to get sent to the gulag. Anyway.
There you go.
Thanks, John. Thanks for listening today. And John, I'll see you later in the week. We are the Focus Group. Be sure to find out all about us at focusgroupradio.com. You'll also be able to download all of our media there, including our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which comes out each Tuesday. It's only 20 minutes long, 3 stories, get in, get out. So we like doing that show. And be sure to support our sponsors. Deep Discount is having an award nominee sale going on right now. And there are a number of movies you can pick. I selected 10 Best Pictures, the Essential Collection. John picked The Madness of King George. And the new release this week is Julia, everything you need to know about Julia Child. And so that'll be a fun documentary. So everybody have a great week. And we will see you next, I guess, Tuesday when we're doing our Unbuttoned podcast. If not sooner. Take care.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.